Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Scott. Today we're going to be talking about best available single barrel bourbons. We're going to chat about that today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. All right, so with that being said, today we're not going to talk about anything that's highly allocated or very difficult single barrels to find. We're going to chat a little bit about the more readily available, best available single barrels in my opinion. So if you're looking for something that still has that kind of tried and true flavor profile, I'm going to hit you with 5 today that I think are, again, generally available in most markets, that will offer something a little bit different, unique, all while being enjoyable, not going to necessarily break the bank, but like I mentioned before, are generally available. So this list is going to be in no particular order. In my opinion, all great bourbons, all worthy of your money. But let's first start off with, right out of the gate, we're hitting you with some Four Roses single barrel. In my opinion, if it's not the best, and again, best, worst, all of that is going to be subjective, but in my opinion of what it is that Four Roses does on a kind of national basis, readily available, price point, they have absolutely nailed their single barrel release. This just happens to be a little bit of an older bottling, but again, the mash bill, the OBSV, which is the mash bill that they utilize for their single barrel, is again readily available. Generally speaking, prices on these are going to be right around that $45-ish price point. Some areas may creep up into that $50, maybe $55 price point. But again, at the end of the day, I think it's an absolutely fantastic whiskey and one that I find myself recommending an awful lot to people. So if you can find a Four Roses single barrel, definitely add this to your list, and it's why it's on my list of my 5 favorite single barrel bourbons. All right, next up, I'm going to hit you with a different single barrel bourbon, and that's from Barton 1792 single barrel. Now, this one is probably a little bit more not as available, but it is out there. I've seen a lot more releases from 1792 over the course of the last year. So I've seen a lot of, obviously they're small batch, they're full proofs. Now that single barrel lineup, I think, just offers up a bourbon that oftentimes for them has some really, really nice ages to them. So if you're someone who is cognizant or appreciates the flavor profile of older bourbons, oftentimes the 1792, no matter what it is that they have to offer, has older whiskeys, either again with the single barrel or their small batches, the full proof, all of those. They are working with much older stock than a lot of other people. So in my opinion, if you can find a 1792 single barrel, do yourself a favor, add it to your list, and it's why it's on my list of generally available single barrel bourbons. All right, let's hit you with what I've got next. All right, here you go. Benchmark single barrel. Again, readily available for the most part. Price point right around that $25-ish price. Buffalo Trace product. If you can't find a lot of things from Buffalo Trace, oftentimes this is one that is on the shelf that you're still able to find. And I think they have a tendency to sit on the shelves just a little bit because of the name and maybe people being a little bit unaware of what it is. In my opinion, I think the Benchmark lineup as a whole, and that is including the single barrel, is some of the best stuff, honestly, that Buffalo Trace does on a daily basis. So if you can find something from the Benchmark lineup, and again, we're talking about single barrels today, and this specifically being the Benchmark single barrel, I would highly, highly encourage you to seek out this bottle. Taste through the profile. I think oftentimes people are more surprised and pleased by that flavor profile that it has than what they were either hoping for or what they thought it was going to be. So again, if you can find a Benchmark single barrel, do yourself a favor and pick it up. I don't think it's gonna be anything you regret, and it's why it's on my list of one of my favorite everyday and available single barrel bourbons. All right, with that, let's hit you with my number 4 in the lineup of 5 single barrel bourbons. What do I have for you next? All right, how about a little bit of tried and true bourbon from Jim Beam? This is their Knob Creek single barrel. For years and years, these have been kind of shelfers that have sat around. People have kind of ignored them. There was, going back maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, a lot of individual single barrels that had much older stock. But overall, you're talking about a product that is anywhere from about that 8 to maybe upwards of 10 years for just the actual shelf single barrel Knob Creek. If you can find these at right around that $45-ish price point, you're doing a fantastic job. It's an incredible bourbon at a great value, great ages. It's a bourbon that just continues to be overlooked, in my opinion. A lot of people want to chase all of the more highly allocated bottles, while this is something that continues to just sit on a shelf and be available for a lot of other people. Now, everyone who's aware of what it is that this has to offer will oftentimes gravitate towards it and have it in just their daily kind of rotation. So if you can find something, again, from Jim Beam, specifically the Knob Creek single barrel, do yourself a favor, pick up the bottle, and it's why it's on my list of my 5 favorite everyday single barrel bourbons. Now, last but definitely not least, and again, this is a list of no particular order, but what do I have for you again, last but not least? There you have it. Russell's Reserve single barrel. Maybe, again, one of those bourbons that still has a tendency to be on the shelves quite often. I see it in a lot of areas. I know there are some people that have a little bit of a difficult time finding it, but overall and through my travels, I see the Russell's Reserve single barrel most of the time in places, coming in at 110 proof. For me, oftentimes I can pick this thing up for anywhere from 40 to maybe 50 bucks tops for me. I know, again, price can differ from region to region, but overall, if you can find something from Wild Turkey, specifically the Russell's Reserve single barrel, do yourself a favor. It is just this tried and true bourbon profile that an awful lot of people either appreciate or gravitate towards. So it's why it's on my list of my 5 favorite everyday bourbons. So there you have it, my 5 favorite everyday single barrel bourbons. Again, generally speaking, these are going to be available in most areas. You may have a little difficult time finding it, but if you really want it and you don't have to do a lot of digging, these, for the most part, are going to be available. So that's why I wanted to put together this list of, oftentimes people are looking for single barrel bourbons. If you start with any one of these 5, you're going to be set. So nothing to worry about there. But again, that is why this is my list of 5 favorite everyday single barrel bourbons. Everyone, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel and become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, make sure you check out the Patreon link in the description below. That down there with a lot of other great things for you as well. Before we leave, let me know your thoughts overall on single barrels or these specific 5 single barrel bourbons overall. Would love to hear your thoughts on them as well. And I think other people coming back to watch the video as well will always appreciate, I think, hearing from others as to their favorites. If I missed something or overlooked something, leave a comment below. Would love to hear your thoughts on that overall. With that, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.